So, starting a new book this month, as we do at the beginning of every month. Here it is, Happiness Recipe. I have not been as excited about one of our books in quite a while. I'm just going to be upfront about it. I'm very excited about this book. And one of the, one of the rules that they gave us in ministerial school was to really wait till you've worked through something before you really talk about it. Well, I'm here to say I'm in the midst of this. So this book has really arrived in my life at a very opportune time. And it arrived in a time where I am really I'd already begun working on what it's talking about. And what it's talking about is, well, let's just start. Let me ask you the question. Are you happy? You don't need to raise your hands or anything. I'm just going to, it's a rhetorical question for you to just sit with and be present with. And there's a few of them. Are you happy? What does that mean to you? What does it mean to you to be happy? How happy can you be? How happy do you dare to be? And I shouldn't even be saying you, I should be saying I. How happy am I? How happy do I dare to be? How happy can I choose to be? How happy am I worthy of being? These are the questions that we'll be exploring this month by way of this book. What is it going to take to move from where I am in terms of happiness in my life to where I would really like to be? I mean, really like to be. If all the limits were taken off, if all of the excuses were swept aside, what does a happy life look like? And to begin with, on our path to getting there, where am I really? No, I mean really. Where am I really in my life? What does the playing field of my existence really look like today? So in this book, the author, Rebecca Morrison, goes through a few things. And she starts with what she calls the authenticity gap. And then she goes to the emotional energy gap. And then she goes on to the physical energy gap. And then she goes into, okay, now that we've got these three things in place, where do we go from there? What do we do? How do we do this on a day in and day out basis? How do we move through this life with this new focus of intention, this new way of being, this new intentional way of really looking at where I am, acting in alignment, acting from inspiration in a very grounded, very spiritual way with a real powerful sense of order to it. So this week, the title of my talk, and I'll be honest, I picked this title, I put this title together based on reading the cover and reading the back of the book. And I just kind of went with my gut, and it works. I love how intuition works. Because this week we're going to talk about the first part, which she says calls the authenticity gap. She says the authenticity gap is created when we don't name and claim our priorities. We don't name and claim our priorities, either to ourselves or to others. It occurs when what we say we think, want, or need isn't really what we think, want, or need. I know I've been guilty of that. In the interest of keeping the peace, in the interest of just seeking approval from others, not really saying what I really think, not really saying what I really want, not really speaking to what I need. Maybe a lack of self-worth, maybe just not feeling good about me, feeling like I can't. No, I can't ask for that because so-and-so said less and such about me, and I bought into it. I'm not worthy. I'm not handsome enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not fast enough. Do I really dare to stand up really strongly and clearly and boldly in my life and say, you know what? This is me. This is what I want. This is what I expect of my friends and how how I expect my friends to treat me. These are the things I deserve. This is how I want to behave. This is how I want to dress. This is how I want to comb my hair. These are the shoes I want to wear. It's okay to wear red socks with a blue coat. There's red in the tie. I tied it into the tie. Being authentic. Being true to me. Being true to who I am. Letting who I am on the inside be who I am on the outside. Really. Really expressing that. Cleaning up the authenticity gap is very much about acceptance. It's about accepting and getting very, very clear about where I am in my life. This is where it begins. This is where Rebecca Morrison begins by saying, where am I now? She talks about identifying, one of the first things she talks about is about identifying the season of my life. What season am I in? You say, well, what does that mean? So, and I had to really sit and ponder. I wanted to kind of work with it for a while before I really, really read into it. And what she describes is we have seasons in our lives. When we're children, we have this we can have a lot of different experiences. It can be a carefree, fancy-free, fanciful experience of childhood, or it can be pretty dark, depending on what our childhood was. And we're growing up, and we have our youth, and we have middle school, we have high school, we have college. We go through all these processes and ways of being. And even on into our later years, or whatever, our 20s, our 30s, our 40s, we have different cycles. We have learning and mastering and then growing. And in these different seasons, we have different ways of being. And as I moved through it, I started thinking of it in terms of agriculture, right? I love gardening. I love to garden. I don't do enough gardening these days. I really miss it. But we have harvesting. We have tilling the soil. We have planting the seeds. And we have watering and carrying the seeds and pulling the weeds. And then we have the harvest time. We're in harvest time right now. So we have all these different seasons and cycles in our lives. So where am I now? One of the things that Rebecca Morrison talked about, she was talking with a friend, and she said this. She says, as I reflected upon our conversation, she was a conversation with a friend. As I reflected upon our conversation later that day, I thought, I don't want my butterfly season to have happened at the age of 17. I want it to be right now. And then I realized it could be. I don't want my butterfly season to have been at the age of 17. I want it to be now. We can choose that. That butterfly season doesn't have to be a one-time occurrence. That cycle of going from caterpillar to chrysalis to cocoon to butterfly is not just a one-time occurrence for any of us. It's something that happens time and time again. As I reflected upon my own life, I went back to what a lot of people would have looked at my life at the time and went, really? What the hell do you think you were doing, dude? I think I've told this story before. I'll tell it again because it's a great story. It was a summer before I moved to Seattle to go to ministerial school. I was literally living in a 1972 El Camino, in a parking lot in Marina del Rey, working as a lifeguard at one of the ritziest private clubs in Southern California. And I was completely happy. The security guards knew me. They left me alone because they knew I worked at the club. And I was just hanging out, doing my lifeguard thing, living paycheck to paycheck. I was fine. I was completely at peace. And I knew a lot of my friends came and found me, and they were like, man, what are you doing? Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Leave me alone. I'm good. And then, this is in 1982. No, 82. My dad, who was working for Boeing at the time, up in Seattle, came down. I don't even know how he found me. Because I can't remember telling him where, this is before cell phones and all that stuff. So I don't know how he tracked me down. Dad came and found me. He said, hey, whatever happened to going to ministerial school? I said, sounds good. I'm ready for that. He says one thing. He says, you move, you stay, you go to school. Because I'd been bouncing around doing all kinds of crazy stuff for the 4 years after I graduated high school. This was his charge for me to get focused. And that was the opening of a whole brand new season of my life. So that was my opportunity to shift out of one season, my summer camp counselor lifeguard season, because actually for 3 consecutive summers, I'd gotten the short jobs and I went and worked the summer camps and I got another job, went to summer camp. I had this nice little cycle going. My dad showed up at just the perfect time. So I shifted from this season, which was pretty cool and fun, but it was clearly time to change. So the universe brought like I said, I never even asked him how he found me. I just know that he did. And as a result of me saying yes to that, this is just kind of a small little thing. As a result of my saying yes to that, for the last 3 weeks of the summer, the president of the club found out that I had been in the parking lot. And he called me into his office. He said, hey, what's going on? I said, well, I've been fine. He says, I know you've been fine. I talked to security guards. They told me the whole story. He says, and I know you're getting ready to go to school. So why don't you just come stay with me for the last 3 weeks of the summer? He had a spare bedroom. I lived in his apartment at the penthouse of the club for the last 3 weeks of the summer. When we are in alignment with the inside, our lives reflect that. The universe will provide. Spirit will show up like we talked about last month. When we are in alignment, the universe aligns with us and says, okay, here. We stay in alignment. Things unfold. Life shows up for us when we show up for us. So while a big part of the question becomes, am I showing up for me? Am I doing the things in my life that I know internally I ought to be doing? Or am I turning away from those things because maybe they're just a little hard? Maybe it's just a little uncomfortable to make that step because maybe I haven't been there before. Because quite honestly, this next minute, I've never been there before. The next hour, I've never really been there before. But I keep showing up for me, and I'm given opportunities to make the change. I'm given opportunities to break away from the past, to break away from the patterns that though they may be comfortable, I know they're not for me anymore. It's like one of the things Rebecca Morrison talks about in the book. She says, are you trying to wear a bikini in winter? Like, am I showing up, in my swimsuit, trying to walk into a winter period of my life? I'm not dressed appropriately. I'm not wrapping myself in the ideas and the ways of being that are appropriate to this cycle. Am I really behaving appropriately or trying to focus intentionally on the things that really matter for the things that really matter to me right now? And that's the kind of the next part of the cycle that she talks about. The first is the seasons, and the next one is really looking at, okay, in this season, am I really behaving appropriately for what I say I want to do, what I say I want to be? Am I spending my time and energy in the areas that are important to me right now? Asking the question, what am I spending my time and energy on? And am I just saying that? Am I just telling myself that story because that's what I believe to be true? Because if I really sat down and wrote down the things I'm spending my time and energy on, how much of what I'm writing down is really true to me? Or am I saying this just because I know it's what I should be saying? I know I've done that in journaling, and then I go back and I scratch it out and said, no, that's not true. I see laughs and nods in the room. Yes, yeah, I know. See, I know it. I tell these stories. I know I'm not alone. It's like when I'm doing it. It's like one of the things Rebecca Morrison talks about in the book is like, it's like, I know there are people out there, and I know she was talking to me. I know she knew I was going to read the book, right? It's like, I know there are a lot of you out there who are like me that read the books with the exercises in them, and you just read the book and you never really do the exercise. You never really do the thing that's going to make the difference. I'm telling you now, I will be doing the exercises this week for the first 2 chapters. I haven't done them yet because I just got the book. And I barely had time to read through the pages to get the talk pulled together. But I'll be doing the exercises. I've already started doing them in my head. You can't help it. It made me stop and think. It made me stop and take inventory of where I am. What are the changes I want to make? Not just the changes I want to make, the changes that I'm going to make, I will be making. And there are 100 little changes that are going to make an immense amount of difference in my life, in my happiness quotient, if you will. She says this, write down what you are spending your time and energy on, parentheses, not what you don't, but should, or what you really want to be doing in this season. The power is in the parentheses, right? Not what you don't, but should, or what you really want to be doing. It's like, it's self-reflection. It's tell myself the truth time, is what she's saying. She says, be brutally honest with yourself. Dare to be brutally honest with yourself about what the state of affairs is. Because I know, because of my own past, my own history, the way I grew up, and all the things that I've been through, I am real good, or I have been, let me phrase that. I have been, up until now, really good at drawing a line between those things that I really don't want to pay attention to and what's going on. Just ignoring the things that are uncomfortable. Just ignoring the issues that I really need to be addressing, because I just really don't want to look at it. The truth be told, those are the things, those challenges that I have are the most powerful opportunities for growth that are within my consciousness. Those little demons that keep screaming at me, so to speak, those little dark spots are the ones that need my light. Those little uncomfortable ideas are the ones that are just asking for understanding. They're not trying to sabotage me. They're not trying to upset me. They're not trying to distract me. They're the ones that simply need my love and attention. And when I give them that, there's a gift within them for me. Right? All the little fears, all the little anxieties, all the little doubts and uncertainties have within them, and I know this from my own experience, have within them a gift. And that gift is freedom. That gift is love. That gift is joy. And when I give them the attention that there's the simple attention that they're asking for, I feel lighter. Because every time I address one of those fears, doubts, uncertainties, it's like taking a rock out of the bag, out of the backpack that I've been carrying around all my life. Set it down. Don't need that fear anymore. Don't need that doubt anymore. Don't need that uncertainty. I get to resolve it and set it aside. So we identify the season. We identify where it is we're spending our time and our attention. The third part, once we've established where we are, that's establishing where we are. The third part is we get to open up a map. We get to create a map that says, This is how I will be. This is how I will behave going forward. This is the way I will approach my life going forward in this season. And then, how am I going to? How will I in this season set myself up for the next? What does that next one look like? So I've identified this season, this present season I'm in. The task now is to say, okay, free of any limitation, free of any fear, doubt, uncertainty. If anything is possible, what do I want it to look like? How do I want it to feel? If I absolutely knew that I could not fail, what is possible for me? And then stretch just a little bit. What's possible now? How do I want it to be? What does volunteering look like? What does my occupation look like? What does my free time look like? What does my fun look like? Do I want to travel? What does it look like? Do I want more financial security? More loving relationships in my life? A loving relationship in my life? Peace in my family? More friends? More caring community? A better relationship with my spiritual practice? A new car? I don't know why I looked right at you. You can ask Steve about his car later. I know your car is just fine, Steve. But you get the point. Looking at my life and saying, how do I bring myself into alignment with me? And then what does that look like going forward? What's next for me? And then there's this season, and then there's, okay, how do I prepare for the next? How do I set myself up for continuing growth and progress? How do I set myself up for a more expanded experience of happiness? Because you see, the happiness part of this equation, the happiness comes when I stop running from this category over here. When I open the door to that category of things I just really don't want to look at because I don't think I'm enough to handle it, because I don't think I'm good enough, I don't think I'm powerful enough, smart enough, all that stuff. When I open the door to that fear and come to an understanding with these ideas over here that I've been avoiding and evading, when I make peace with all that, I make peace with me. And when I make peace with me, my happiness quotient expands. Truly, it explodes. And says, and you're like, what? I get to be happy? I get to be happy because all of a sudden I'm okay with me. I'm not beating up on me for not doing this and not doing that. And dang it, I did not make the bed this morning. Or the dishes are still piled up in the sink. Or for whatever, any other 100 reasons I have in my life that I look for to just beat up on me. That has nothing to do with not making the bed or not doing the dishes. It has to do with me not being in alignment with who I am. So how do I get into better alignment with who I am? I do that by really looking and really being honest with me and really coming to terms with, this is where I am in my world. This is where I am on my map. And this is me going forward. Oh. So So I want to talk about the dragons, because there are dragons in the title. Getting to the edge of the map. And you've heard me say this before, and I like the story. The old map makers back in the day, when they really didn't know what the world looked like, you got to the edge of the map, and they said, "Beware, beyond here there be dragons," was the notation at the edge of the map. I say the dragons are there, and they're a gift. The dragons are a gift. Because conquering the dragon, embracing the dragon, is embracing our fear. And what's on the other side of fear? But love. And power. And poise. And peace. Much of this process is about making peace with ourselves. About making peace with the imaginary fear dragons. And letting them be a magical dragon that we hop on the back of and go for a ride. You don't just throw, anybody who's watched Game of Thrones especially, you don't just throw a saddle on the back of a dragon and go for a ride. You have to talk nice to it. You got to cooperate. You need to make peace and love the dragon. The dragon allows you to ride. So decide to make peace with you. Be willing, let us, I am choosing this week going forward to find greater peace with me. To look at some of the darker places and come to an understanding. To step into some of the things that I've been avoiding. And I invite you to join me. Do the exercises in the book. It's going to be a good, wonderful adventure this month as we go through the happiness recipe. And so the spiritual practice this week is this. Let's spend time this week journaling about what you are really spending your time and energy on. What is serving you? What is not? What shifts in focus and attention will move you more into an authentic experience of you and of life. So this is the practice this week. So with that, now it's your turn. Questions, comments, sharing about the message today. Yeah. What would be an authentic experience, Victoria asks. You can hold. Yeah. An authentic experience for me is one that says what is happening on the inside is free. I'm feeling free to express what's happening on the inside, on the outside. I'm not hiding. I'm not holding back because of my circumstances. I'm not holding back because of the people that are around me. And I'm willing to ask for what I want. You see, because being inauthentic for me is holding back. It's hiding, right? If I'm walking in the world and not hiding anymore, here's another word that works with authenticity is congruency. There's congruence between my inner world and my outer world. Right? I'm not holding back anymore. That'll help.
Because sometimes you might want to read a book rather than do your dishes.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's being authentic, right?
Yes. That's true. The dishes will get done eventually.
And not feeling guilty about it. Right?
And not feeling guilty about it, yes. But, okay, and if I'm sitting there reading the book, and I keep getting distracted and thinking about the dishes, maybe I take the 5 minutes to go do the dishes so that I can focus on reading the book.
Yeah,
So,
good one.
yeah. So,
Anybody else?
yep.
Such a good talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been like I feel like a recurring theme for me in my life, and a question that kind of I think aligns with what you're talking about is like, who are we uninterrupted? Like, if our entire life we just had like green lights the entire way, what would our life be like? Or like you said, kind of letting go of those limiting beliefs. So maybe just like adding that in with the other journaling questions.
Right.
But yeah, really like
So what?
it.
Yeah, I like that question. So what if I was only going to encounter green lights? Yeah, I like that. Thank you.
Well, possibly the red lights redirect you to
Now and then,
where you might want to be.
maybe. Anybody else? Okay. Awesome. All right. All right. So let's take this into prayer. All of it. And so as we enter into the rest of this week, we understand and know the God is infinite spirit of life and love and truth and joy and happiness is all there is. That this thing we call life unfolds within us, around us, before us, through us, as us, right here and right now, each and every one. Individually and collectively, we are it expressing. And I know for myself and for everybody here, everybody listening online, watching online, I know that life is good and very good. That the desires of our heart are clear and open. And that our experience of this life is one of joy and happiness and love, and that each and every one of us is supported in the expression and experience of our heart's desire right here and right now. Life is so very, very, very good as every one of us. And going forward into this week, I know, not just for us, but for our country itself, that this week our electoral process here in this country is one filled with love. It's one filled with understanding. And that there's a sure and certain divinity in the process, that each and every one is guided and directed to vote our conscience and our heart. And I trust that the outcome is one that is for our highest and greatest good. That no matter what it is, we go forward with a sense of peace and joy and understanding, trusting that the way forward is very, very clear. And so with gratitude, we go forward, trusting that this idea of happiness as it expresses through each and every one of us is one that grows and expands, that we are guided and directed in our own exploration and our willingness to grow and expand and find a sense of joy in living. And so with gratitude, we go forth into this day, into this week, knowing that each and every one is blessed. We are blessed and a blessing. to our lives and the communities that we live in. And so we let it be. And so it is.